Hi, everybody. I'm Corey Miller with Back Porch Writer and Indie Author Hour, and I'm also the author of Hush. I write simply scandalous mystery thrillers. I had to think about that for a minute. I don't know. It must be the snow. The snow is getting to me. It's snowing today. I didn't mention that before we started to hit the record. It's snowing right now. Woohoo! I'm so excited. The kids weren't too thrilled because they had to go to school, but I'm like, yeah, it's snowing. It's snowing.
See, that's funny because my kids are always super excited about snow, and I'm always like, oh no. Because usually it means I had to shovel the driveway or whatever.
Well, the kids would be excited if they were home for the event, but since they have to go to school, not so much.
Less excited.
My only concern is whether or not I'll be able to get out of our driveway and out of the property because of the snow. Because, ours, it's not a simple shovel situation. It's more of a tractor with a thing on it to move the snow. So it's a little bit different for me. I have shoveled our driveway, and I can attest to the fact that that is not pleasant when the snow is really, really deep. It's not easy.
Should I introduce myself to you?
Please do.
Hello, everybody. I'm Hardy LaBelle. I am a longtime video game designer, and more recently, I am the author of the Video Game Careers series of career guides for aspiring game developers.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! And also part of the Indie Author Hour. Yes,
part of the Indie Author Hour. We have a guest today. It's the first time we're having a guest, and we're so excited. Our guest is Kathy Meis from Bublish, and we've talked about Bublish on the show a couple of times. And so if you go back and over to YouTube and look for them, you'll find out we talk about Bublish periodically because I love Bublish. It's no lie. I really like that platform. It's a lot of fun to use, interact with. I really like it, and their customer service is great. So we want to invite Kathy to come on to the program. I think, Hardy, what does she need to do to join in? Does she just click something?
There you go. You see her.
And there she is. So she should be here in just a moment. And she'll tell us all about everything you ever wanted to know about Bublish. Hi, Kathy.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Kathy.
Great, how are you?
Hi, great to be on. Thanks for inviting me. I haven't met you, Hardy. I've had the pleasure of meeting Corey, at least virtually.
It's a real pleasure. It's a real pleasure. Thanks for coming on with us today.
Yeah. So this is great. I love this platform too. This is fun.
Isn't it cool?
Really fun.
Yeah. Very easy to do the live streaming. So great for you being in the beta.
Yeah. We get to test everything. It's really cool. So Kathy, tell everybody about Bublish so that we're all on the same page.
Yeah. So what we've created is the world's first complete publishing system with integrated brand building, discoverability features. We are trying to automate those discoverability processes that are very difficult for the authors and integrate them into the writing process. So even our writing tool, you can write your book on Bublish, has the ability to start sharing excerpts. And then, of course, as you two know, who created the book Bubbles, all of that branding and everything is pulled and automated. We also pull all the metadata from your book so that it helps with search engine. And we automate everything behind the scenes to make it easy for you to engage with your audience, talk about your stories, but not feel like a salesperson. And then pull them into either following you on Bublish, and then they start to get emails, or they can visit your website. They can sign up for your email newsletters. We try to connect the dots. So it starts with social engagement, and then you draw them into a longer term marketing relationship. And we just keep building out those tools and integrating them.
See, now that is interesting because I guess I wouldn't call myself a Luddite, but I didn't realize that you guys were pushing so hard to sort of integrate the writing and the publishing components.
Yeah.
Because I've never really messed around with the Bublish writing tools because I don't know, I'm old fashioned. I write things out longhand on the back of napkins and things like that. But that's really interesting. So, could you tell us a little bit more about the tools? What is it?
Yeah, so again, trying to save steps, automate, integrate. So what you can do is on the left-hand side of the screen, you start writing or copy and pasting in from a Word document, your content chapter by chapter. And on the other side of the screen, you will actually see that in a laid out fashion. So a laid out EPUB is being generated as you write. and you can do one click and you can change the entire layout of the book. You can add chapter titles, chapter numbers, delete them, and it generates the automated EPUB interactive table of contents as you write. So then you just go to your dashboard, and at any point in that process, you can download an EPUB and look at it and see what it looks like, go back, change the style, one click, and you have, at the end of the writing process, a book ready for distribution in the EPUB format. On top of that, while you're writing, you know how you create book bubbles from a published book, you can create rough cut book bubbles from your manuscript. So you just select on the right-hand side and you start to engage the audience in the actual process. And if you set up pre-orders, which we all know are a very powerful tool for really launching a new book, you just click where those pre-orders are available, and then on your rough cut book bubbles, you'll get the pre-order button and you can start pushing people to your pre-order page.
Wow, how about that? That's interesting.
Yeah. So again, the discoverability, and again, every time you share a book bubble, you're associating your content with the keywords and the title and your name and, you know, whatever metadata is behind that. And I think the concept I have an upcoming conference talk in Hawaii. Unfortunately, I'm doing it virtually. I wish I were going to Hawaii. But the conference, the whole talk is about metadata is your brand. So we're really trying to make authors think about that the social metadata, you know, when you're sharing social content, it can be a blog or an excerpt from your book or a book bubble. You're building a whole series of ways for different tools to discover you. You're drawing, even pushing to Amazon, which is one of the biggest search engines in the world. They reward you for that traffic in your rankings. Nobody has to buy, just driving traffic helps your rankings. So, and then making sure that consistency across your social metadata, your hashtags you're using, your search engine on your website, you know, the metadata that you put with your books when you upload them into Bublish and on the major retailers is all synced, so that all of a sudden you're defining, this is what my book is. And when word of mouth goes then to the computers for search, you're more and more discoverable, because every word of mouth recommendation now ends with computers, and they do not interpret things the same way that you and I, you know, we can't fumble around and say, well, it's this. They're like, we either see that word or we don't, and it's very precise. So mastering that can really, really enhance your discoverability.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's really true. Here's my next question for you. What is the best way to approach building that metadata that you're talking about? Like, what's a good way for authors, or really anybody, since it's all about platform building these days, what's a good way to approach that?
So the biggest foundational thing I think that authors can do today is start by understanding precisely who their target audience is. And this is why at Bublish we say we empower authorpreneurs. So it's a very similar journey to that any company might have in trying to say, you know, where is that audience? How do we find them? How do they talk about when they're looking for solutions? How would they talk about your product? Where do they hang out? What age are they? What devices do they use? You know, you'll find how many books does that specific genre, how many books do they read per month? So, and each genre has different aspects. I mean, there are genres that are very much still more print oriented and others that are primarily digital. So understanding, you know, where they are, and that if you can build that target audience and really describe them, and then start to say, okay, this is how they on their computers find the type of content I'm writing. And I'm going to start to describe it, and I'm going to experiment with it. You know, even down to a hashtag that says iBooks is an interesting, you know, it's actually a piece of social metadata that can get you to a specific audience. And if your audience is reading on iPads or mobile devices, it's an interesting thing for you to experiment with. So it's just a whole different way of thinking, and it all starts with defining your target audience as specifically as you can, and then going after them and building from there.
I think that's a great point. I think that's a terrific point. It's interesting because Corey and I were having a conversation a few episodes ago about, understanding your own brand and understanding your own identity and defining that very carefully. And that, I think, goes back to kind of what you're speaking about here, which is the more you know your own brand and the more you can really identify clearly who you're trying to market for, that's going to give you a huge leg up or huge step forward in terms of being able to reach that audience. That makes a lot of sense.
I was actually, Violet Duke is her pen name, the woman who's organizing the conference in Hawaii for the top-selling romance authors, and she loved the topic of metadata is your brand because she said she had done an experiment. She was attracting a certain kind of reader, and they just weren't a great fit, and so she wasn't getting that network effect, and she wasn't keeping them. And it was just with one of her series, and she changed descriptor, small couple of words, and all of a sudden it was like a light turned on, and the right people then were coming, visiting, engaging, buying, talking about. We found that with an author, and it was a single word that was changed in her subtitles. And this is another example with romance, but this is across the board. So Regency romance is a huge category, extremely competitive. Regency romance is a subcategory, which delivers a specific kind of romance read, but it's getting very crowded with things that aren't authentic. So then adding the word authentic. So this is a Jane Austen-esque type of read. It abides by the rules. Her books have come out of obscurity to just selling like hotcakes all over the world because it's
interesting,
so specific. And
is there a good way to how do you research that metadata? Like, what would you recommend, since you're an expert in this? How let's say Corey wants to reach thriller audiences, what's a good way to research, I don't know, the terms or the way to reach those people? What would you recommend?
So there's two places I would start. As I said, Amazon has the most robust search engine of any of the retailers, and it auto-populates. So when and Corey's shaking her head, she's probably done this, but you can see exactly in subgenres, in certain categories, how crowded they are, and if you're a good fit there. So you just keep experimenting and putting in thriller. Give me a couple other words that, Corey, you would start to populate to really get granular.
I actually copied off of someone who was in a mystery thriller category because I was like, well, he's done this successfully, so let me see what he's done. But I would put in things like private investigator series, mystery thriller, private investigator series. I mean, I was doing all these weird combinations. And I will tell you this, and I've said this in other episodes, that when I started playing with all these different words and putting them in as my keywords, things changed. The books actually started to get noticed. It was a huge difference. I mean, I've said to Hardy, one of my books, it was in like the millions or whatever, and it came way down because I started to change the keyword categories. But I didn't understand that in the beginning. And I had read some stuff about it, but I just didn't get it. And I think that that's true for a lot of authors coming in. Someone talking about metadata, I'm going, what the heck is metadata? What are you talking about?
Right.
I don't know what that means.
And it's so interesting. So even, when you're getting ready to, at the earliest stages, write a book, the best place to start, based on the goal of selling books and making money, and, there are other goals you can have. But if you want to sell books and make money, start with finding a category in these massive genres You have categories under, you have the subgenres, you have subtitles with keywords. You don't have to have a series to have a subtitle. So subtitles are very powerful because they become part of your title and they have keywords in them. Then you have the categories, which are, you can go on any page in Amazon. If you, like you said, someone who's already done this successfully, someone you'd like your book associated with, scroll down on that book's page and look at their subcategories and experiment with this, because it's very easy to change this. So give it a couple of months, see what works. Are you finding the right audience? And then the keywords, I think the big thing there is that it's not just single keywords. You can put in 7 keyword strings, like you're saying, investigative. Right. Yeah. So a series of, and then see how it works. And if you're starting to find your audience, and then of course, optimize your book at the back to be able to draw them. I mean, they're big, ebooks are fabulous because they're big, basically big web pages in a zip file. That's what an ebook is. So at the end, then draw those people to your website, try to capture their email and start to talk to them.
Now, 2 things.
Surveys, that type of thing.
2 things. One, I did change a category just recently. So, because I was testing something. I went, I wonder if I should be in this category over here. And I just did it a couple days ago. So I'm eager to see what happens with my book in this new category. Because it was doing well in the category I had it in, but I was ignoring another category where I thought I could get my book probably in the top 100 over here really quickly. I need to test this. So
absolutely,
I decided to do that. The second thing though is on the keywords in the titles or the subtitles. I know that Amazon, sometimes they have a list of keywords they look for that they don't want you to have in your subtitles. Right. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah. So, for example, Jane Austen-esque was a way, authentic Regency romance. You can't put Jane Austen in the keyword. You can't put, James Patterson. You can't put another author. There's, if you Google it, you can find a list of rules around that, and you do need to abide by them. But that doesn't mean you can't use the same categories as you want to get in those loops of, recommendation loops in like-minded categories. And sometimes it's surprising and you think you're going to fit a category, and then you start to drill down and spend some time on that. And you're like, yeah, it's not quite my people. And that's fine too, because, you're not, once you pull them in and they read your book, you want to make sure that the category you're in is the experience you're delivering. But specificity is key. And doing that research, and it's time consuming, but it's one of those foundational things that can really make or break. And then revisiting it as you learn and get more sophisticated every few months. Another thing that's really interesting is price is a piece of metadata. So even that is an interesting thing to play around with. And it becomes then part of how you price your books, also becomes part of your brand. So it should be done very strategically, and it becomes part of how the length of your book is another interesting category that we've experimented with, because we do distribute a small number of authors, and they 2-hour reads. So even if you have something in that category, that's a great way, because there's a smaller number in your genre in that category that are that length. And so you're adding that, and you're telling someone something very specific. Oh, great. This is what I need for the train. I'm going to buy that.
And I've done that. I've done a category like that for short read. And the thing that's interesting is when you go and do those categories, whether we'll talk KDP, Kindle first, because it's a little bit easier, because a lot of people are using that platform. What I've learned is if you don't find, when you're on Amazon, you're finding these different categories on a certain page or whatever, that doesn't always correspond to when you're actually uploading your book and trying to find that category. It's not a direct match all the time.
Right.
And so one of the things that I learned from another author a while back was, well, if you find that category, you can contact them directly, meaning Kindle, KDP, Amazon. You can contact them and say, I really want to be in this category. How do I get into this category? And they'll help you get into the category you want to get into. And I was able to do that with another. Yeah, I was able to do that with another book.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, because I just couldn't get to that category. I was like, what? It exists in Amazon. I can see it on that person's page. Why can't I get to it when I do my categories?
The magic
And
combination of keywords.
Yeah, and there's some wording. I can't remember if it's on the Kindle one or on the Create Space or both, but there was some category that's not a non-category, like you can't categorize the book or something, and then you contact them. But yeah, I was able to do it.
That's
so
great. That's great. Yeah, it's I mean, it's one more thing authors need to learn, but I think it's one of the most important things right now. So how do you interpret your brand for computers? So when word of mouth goes in for the search, how do they find you?
When I started to figure out that was important, the whole metadata thing, and actually understand what metadata meant, I had to get through that first. What does that mean? When I figured that part out, it actually became a challenge and it became fun. So I think that authors just approach it from that perspective. It's like one big game, trying to figure out where your stuff goes and how it will do, and will this price do something, and what if I do this? So if you approach it from that perspective, you probably have a lot more fun doing it. Yeah, it's been fun for me.
It is, and you can see, like, you can get to number one in those micro categories, and that alone is fabulous. I think the same thing on pricing, like playing around with different things, and the people who have more content to work with are really at an advantage for all of that, because it's so educational. We've done so many experiments there, and what we've learned is fascinating. But price is an enormous discoverability tool right now.
For the record, I have reached number one in my micro category.
Yay!
Continuing education for game development. Hooray!
That's awesome. That's fabulous. That's fabulous. Yeah, that's
that was
perfect.
very exciting.
So how did you then find that micro category? So you've done this, so you must have done your research.
Well, I did some research. I also tried to get educated about categories, before I went and posted everything up onto Amazon, and the fact that, as you're saying, it's a search engine really didn't cross my mind. But then going back and thinking about that, for me, what I did was I was looking at books about game development, and they all seem to be parked over under video games. And not for nothing, but if I want a book about video games, I'm not looking for a book about game development. I want to read about the games, or I want tips or tricks or strategies.
Yeah.
So my thought was, I need to be somewhere where people are looking to educate themselves, or to continue their education, or continue learning. And so I tried to steer away from this is a game book and steer more towards this is an educational product. This is about continuing education. And that really helped a lot. That was made a big difference.
And then you're delivering the right reading experience, because you're in the right category, and so they get it and they're like, oh, this is what I wanted. I wanted to learn something, and I am.
Yeah.
Not a false expectation or a disappointment because you're in a category where you don't belong.
I hope so.
It sounds
well, you got to number one, so you're in the right category. You did something right.
You did something right. And it's the Wild West out there, so a lot of experimentation.
That's like I say, it's one big game and it's exciting. So just approach it from that perspective. It's a lot of fun.
It absolutely is.
I want to back up a little bit, because I don't really know the story behind Bublish. So how did this even happen that you created this thing called Bublish? Because
I just woke up and said, I would like to be an entrepreneur. No, absolutely not. As you can tell, I'm not in my 20s like the majority of entrepreneurs. I came out of building brands for the likes of Forbes, editorial brands, and was watching really what happened when the physical packaging was changing and things were moving online. And it was really a challenge for these very iconic editorial brands to keep it all together. So, the content and the editorial brand, which is nothing more than just a collection of very talented people with specialties, was just diluted. And when you dilute a brand, you dilute the ability to charge for it, and, to keep all that talent there. And, Forbes, unfortunately, is now Forbes, the iconic capitalist brand, is now owned by Chinese investors. Right. And Forbes is something every household would know. Even if you didn't read it, that was the power of that brand internationally. So thinking about this, I started to think from that place, like the economics. I had written a lot about economics, the economics of a brand in the digital space. And so you had this change to social, shopping online, digital distribution, all this opportunity. But the one thing that was missing was like that control, like how do you keep it together? And so that's where the book bubble started, which was horribly named the microserped when it came out. Isn't that a terrible name? A microserped. Microserped.
Bad name.
Bad name. Charles, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for that whiteboarding session that launched the book bubble and Bublish and the whole lexicon. So much more fun than the microserpent. But it was clunky the first, but we went out and we won O'Reilly's Tools of Change in our beta, our first version. You could tell the authors and the publishers were really hungry for something that helped them with this, and then something that they could then track. Like, is anybody looking at this? I don't know that anymore because I don't have the physical container and things are speckled all over the internet. And so little by little, what we realized as we were working with authors was, okay, for individual authors especially, and we work with a lot of publishers, we have traditional, we have indie, we have hybrid, we have publicists using the platform. But what we realized for the authors is that they needed things to be more integrated really into the whole writing process, because you're learning the craft of writing. That's where your heart and soul, and that's where you start. And then all of a sudden you realize no matter what your journey, you're still in charge of the marketing. Even if you're traditionally published, if you're not already, a brand name, there's not a lot of money to build that brand because the economics have shifted. There's just not the margins. So that's why we started building tools to integrate, let them write while you're writing, start to build your audience, not have to go everywhere to go out and learn something new. And so the follow feature, which is one of our newest features, is an integration with MailChimp. And so that then takes all of those branding elements that you find in the book bubble. And if I follow you, Corey, I will get a branded email, again, with your face, your book cover, and a link to your bubble. And so you'll see that in your metrics as an email view. And the next piece of that would then be an integrated newsletter. So again, you don't have to always be learning new systems. Everything is already there for us to rearrange it. You just have to stick with the content, and you're a content writer for your craft. And now you can be a content writer for your business. And then start to show you again, what are the metrics behind this. And then, go ahead.
There are several things I like about Bublish. And I'll bring up in a minute. Do you have a question, Hardy?
No, but you're starting to echo. Is that just me?
No, it was echoing for a second.
Am I echoing too, or?
No,
you're okay.
Hardy was earlier. Now he's not. Now I'm not. I don't know what that is. It's beta.
Those sound great to me. I can hear you.
We're good. But one of the things that I've said on my show Backwards Writer, and I've mentioned it here, is that the platform is so awesome, because if you were coming out as an author that didn't have a website, this could essentially be it for you, because everything is there for you. You don't have to do anything else. And it really is awesome that way. I didn't realize about that follow feature, by the way, with the MailChimp thing. So I'm glad to hear about that. That's good. But that's awesome. Then you can take it, if you do have a website, you can take the bubble that you created and put it on your website. I've got a link on my website that takes it over to Bublish, but occasionally I'll put it into a blog post, as I'm writing that way. So,
and then we really tried to build, for that same reason, and I'll be honest, we always recommend have your own website. But when some authors are starting out, they just don't have the funds, or they don't know.
They don't know what to do.
But it's your hub, so get your website. But if you don't have one in the meantime, you can use our author profile. So again, like someone can find a book bubble, and then there's a click and they can go and see all of your work. So it's kind of like a LinkedIn style profile for all your books. And they can also purchase right from your profile, which is more about you and everything you've written than about an excerpt from just the book. Mm-hmm. So we've, again, tried to really think about the branding of the author over the branding of the book. Because in the end, if you get someone to read one of your books, then the key is for them to connect with you, because then they'll want to read more. And that's about the writing experience you deliver and the brand that you are. So there's a lot of evidence. Peter Hildick-Smith, who's the head of the Codex Group, and he does a lot of research on discoverability and readers in the digital age. And of course, we know there's so many different ways that readers find work now because they are online. But the one thing that's obvious, he had done a presentation called the Opportunity of the Author Brand. And he tracked a lot of careers, and he watched, and it was that brand discoverability. Readers are 15 times more likely to purchase a book from an author whose name they recognize than someone they don't. So a lot of times, I think, in days of yore, it was okay to brand heavily around the book, but now that author branding, and that's a big focus, that you never see your book in a bubble alone without you being right there, because you want to build your brand. And that's why the author insight that enriches the excerpt you're sharing in the book bubble is about the story behind the story, your journey. You know, you have the biggest brands in the world using storytelling to, you know, make their fans rabid fans and engage them and show them, you know, what's behind our brand. And so that was part of what we wanted to do, is give you the voice as the creator to say, this is what went into this scene, just so you know. And in just enjoying this little micro browsing experience on Twitter or Facebook or wherever I find your book bubble, I'm like, wow, you know, this person really, that's so interesting. It's as interesting as the sample. And it just builds, you know, your voice as the writer, the creator, and brings people into your journey.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that happened, now I'm getting an echo again. Sorry. Early on,
like when you back up, when you go back, that's when they
stay close.
Stay close. Stay close.
All right, so I changed a lot of my categories and keywords and things like that. Around the same time that I was doing that is when I decided to use Bublish, and that's when I really started to see movement for my books and getting them noticed. And I had a book that was out as a lead magnet that was free. Yeah. And so I really was trying to get it noticed. And I think the combination of those two things is what really did it.
Great.
I don't know. I could be wrong. But I think that's really what happened, was I did those simultaneously.
Yeah. So then I could chime in and say that I started to do this program with Corey, and she mentioned Bublish to me, and I'd never heard of it, unfortunately. And so she said, well, you got to check it out. And I did, and I just fell in love with the ability to take an excerpt and add some explanation to it, and then it's done. I mean, all I had to do was just grab a piece of the actual EPUB, you know, write it in, write a little bit of an explanation, and I didn't have to fuss with it. I didn't have to mess with formatting. Yeah. I didn't have to worry about any of the technical aspects. I could just publish it, and it was very fire and forget. And I don't know. As soon as I got into your tools, I thought, oh, this is terrific. I just love it. So I put it together and I did it.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. And then, you know, like you're creating this library of digital assets, which is, you know, really evergreen content. And you can just kind of go back and have a content drip with new, you know, little leads onto it to draw new people in, try different hashtags again, even on different platforms, and see, you know, who you can get in front of. Because the thing we never wanted to be was a kind of a social network. We wanted to be a social marketing toolkit. So no one needs to be a member of Bublish in order to engage with one of your bubbles. They can do anything on a single bubble. If they sign in and join as a reader, they get to explore and get navigation. But every bubble it's a microsite, really. A microserp.
So
Never again.
why don't you talk to us a little bit about how does Bublish work in terms of when I create my bubble and I send it out, if I'm being consistent, because consistency is a big thing, if I'm being consistent from week to week, what sort of things can I expect from on Bublish's side for helping me out?
Oh, yeah, we do a lot of that. So anytime we have a bubble that is shared on someone's Twitter stream and they put @BublishMe, which is our Twitter handle, in the tweet, then we retweet it to our 11,000 plus followers. Every weekend, we showcase the newest bubbles. That event now is so crowded, it runs from the crack of dawn on Saturday all the way through Sunday night. And those hashtags are all optimized to go. We put our own little tweet on there, and we showcase your bubbles, and we put the hashtag for your genre. Plus, we put Sample Saturday or Sample Sunday, which are big sampling hashtags for readers. And then we take that stream on Monday morning and we put it into a tool called Storify, which then takes a whole bubble stream, a whole Twitter stream, and makes it one piece of content. And that becomes the Bublish floating bookstore. So then that is shared across multiple platforms. So every weekend that you have a new bubble, you should see a big tick up in the number of views. On top of that, we have the bubble of the week, and we showcase one bubble every week that is really well written and showcases the platform and has a great book. And that then we do an email at the end of the month with the 4 bubbles of the week, goes out to our reader audience. And so then we have the follow feature as well, which puts more eyes. People can share those from their email. So we try to put a lot of eyes. That is the one thing, we can say confidently is we will put a lot of eyes on your book, and then we can drive a lot of people to your product page. We can't, we can measure that conversion. We don't own the actual checkout, so we can't measure how that translates into direct sales, but we will get a lot of eyes on your website. We'll increase your social following, and we'll get a lot of eyes on your book and your product pages at the major online retailers. And we're agnostic, which is the other interesting thing. So if you come and you see a book bubble and that you click buy, you see all the different retailers where that book is available. So there's very few, most of the marketing tools that are available to us are specific to the retailer. Amazon has a great many tools for marketing within, Amazon, but Barnes & Noble again. But when you get outside of there, there's very few tools that the reader can encounter something and say, I want this. I'm a Nook reader. Click and go to your product page on Barnes & Noble. So that's very important to us.
And I think one of the things that was interesting to me in the beginning with Bublish, first of all, everybody, just so you know, they do these tutorials, and they have tutorials you can watch, and it's awesome. They're great. And Joy Katz does those, and I've participated in those. Those are really good. I didn't understand in the beginning the discoverability thing, and that when you're on your Bublish page and you can see that, I'll just call it conversion.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to call it. See those numbers. I didn't understand just how important all of that was until I started to listen to some of the tutorials that you all were doing, and then start to see that, oh my God, my book is actually moving a little bit.
Yeah.
There's actually downloads happening, so something is working here. I didn't understand the importance of that, and it goes back to the whole, one, you need to do this consistently, and 2, you need more stuff out there. When I just had like one book, it was almost impossible to get anything, any movement at all. So those are 2 of the things I've learned a lot in the last year to 2 years, is the consistency and then the book thing. Can you talk a little bit more about Joy and the things that she does for Bublish?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a lot about thought leadership and education for anyone. We have a huge community. So every month, on the 27th, in fact, we have Joanna Penn joining us, the Creative Penn. Have hundreds of people signed up for that webinar. They're all free, and we usually post that socially as well as through our newsletter, the signups. And hers is all about, your publishing journey, but we have everything pretty much focused on the business side of publishing and marketing, not the craft side. So we do one of those each month. And then the other one is a webinar where anyone who's interested in learning about Bublish or is on the platform can join a live webinar or get a recording, ask their questions, and we explore different parts. And Joy always runs the webinars, and she does an amazing job for us. And, you know, just a host of thought leadership. We're always blogging. We just did our last one was about how you shouldn't make New Year's resolutions. You should have quantifiable goals, and talks about actually setting a number, breaking that down. What does that look like on a daily basis? And then you say, okay, I can sell that many books a day. Maybe I'm aiming too low, or that's a lot of books. How am I going to do this? So when you add numbers to your goals, that really can improve your outcomes, and you can adjust. And again, what's interesting for me as a professional writer my whole life, an editor, but also now an entrepreneur, is how similar the journey is for authors and entrepreneurs, which is why we love the word authorpreneurs, because it's so much about, you know, constantly articulating what is it about your book, the essence of it. You know, that's our elevator pitch. What's different about Bublish? What's different about your book? Setting goals, achieving goals, you know, getting that message out so lots of people know about Bublish. Same thing with you. Like, you know, how do you build your brand, reach new audiences? It's so fascinating to me how similar the lessons I learn as an entrepreneur can apply to authorpreneurs. So we try to, you know, share those lessons. And sometimes they're very hard lessons you learn as an that did not work.
It didn't go quite the way I thought it was going to go. Those are valuable lessons, though.
They are. I mean, and that's all what it's all about. You just learn and you go forward, and, you know, you just get smarter and smarter. And a lot of what being an authorpreneur is about is the same as entrepreneur. It's about stamina, consistency, the highs and lows. You just got to push through the lows and know that, you know, over time things are building. And I think what I see, and this is very heartbreaking to me, is that social marketing in general it's kind of something a lot of authors don't want to do. They did never see that side of their business. They just thought, I'll write a book. I poured my heart and soul into this. It's for sale now. Where's my audience? And they don't have a strategy to go out and find that. And then they get disheartened. And rather than trying to look at it as an emotional and heartbreaking journey, just say, okay, what I'm doing right now doesn't work. Let's do a plan and try one or two things and just carve out that time for the business side. And, you know, Corey, you could probably speak to this perfectly, having, you know, being at the 2-year mark, how much you've learned. And if you just thrown up your hands in the first 6 months, you know, where would that have left you versus where you are now?
Absolutely. I was talking with my husband about this just the other day. And I said, you know, what I know now compared to even the first book I published was 2011, horrible formatting, didn't know anything about what I was doing. I was just trying. That compared to now is leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
The difference is amazing in what I know now. And a lot of that is because I started Back Porch Writer and started talking with other authors and other experts and having them come on the show so I could pick their brain.
Yeah,
it really is
power in community. The power of community. It's the same with entrepreneurs, because you're learning something new every day.
Yes.
Tap into the energy of the group. Yeah.
Yes. And that was the whole reason for Back Porch Writer, was to bring the conference to other people who couldn't go to conferences. That was the entire idea behind it. And it's helped a lot in the last 2 years, without a doubt. I mean, I would never have done this blab thing at all if I hadn't done the Back Porch Writer stuff first. I'd be like, blab, no, I don't want to be in front of the screen. You know.
I know the technology is constant and ever changing, isn't it? You learn one thing, you're like, I gotta learn something. This was very easy.
But this is really intuitive. This is fun. What's next for Bublish?
Well, in the next coming weeks, we're actually launching some services because we have seen a need for print book formatting, the need for even digital formatting, the need for editorial services. we've been working with some great cover designers, and we've seen tremendous impact. And when and some of the cover designers we work with are authors, and just are like, we know the power of the cover, so we started doing this very affordably. So this sense that, through our own talents in-house and through our network of people we trust, that we could build a network of author services that would be affordable and effective. And we could say, yes, you can work with this person, because I think a lot of authors don't even know how to assess an editor or right. Yeah. And that's, so again, integrating things into this ecosystem that authors need. And then we are going to launch into distribution, mostly because now there are hundreds and hundreds of books being written on Bublish. We had this beta group, and it's just been kind of extraordinary to work with them. And we have learned so much on the marketing side. So our differentiator there would be marketing, distribution with discoverability. So a different approach that is not like a publisher, but does some of the things that a publisher did well, through automation, again, integration, education, those things. Already we could see almost templates that would be different, where you could teach an author for first year with one book. Here are some strategies you could do. So, we could know someone just uploaded one book. Okay, if this is what you want to do, distribute one book, here are the strategies we think, and the goals that we think, you could set and achieve with one piece of content. And then there'd be other ones where we could really work with multiple pieces of content in one genre, would afford a whole different avenue on branding. That was the one thing we did. We did a lot with subtitles, and it was so fascinating. So not series, but taking these authors who, a number of them when we started were from traditional publishing, and they did not, unfortunately their publisher went under, and their books were kind of in obscurity. And we were like, well, part of the problem is your cover. Part of it's your metadata. We were kind of shocked, actually, by what we found on the metadata side, because that is always something I thought was a strength for publishers, but not all. And those subtitles became part of the cover art, even though they were in a series, and identifying their brand in this like little tagline. So yeah, I had a great conversation with one of our authors over in South Africa this morning, and almost cried. She wrote me a great note, but her books are doing fabulously well. So that's, again, something, and we probably will not just open up distribution, because we want distribution with discoverability. It takes different skills. So we're probably going to just launch again with a limited number. And my approach that I'm thinking about is that we will have the authors create a sell sheet. So we'll teach authors how, here are the things that you need to do. Sell us on the concept that you really did do the work on your target audience, and you really understand who your audience is. And so even if we don't distribute them, it's a value added tool and process for them to go through. But that's how we would assess who we could work with, is someone who's doing the homework. Just smart. To start, because we always want to do things really well, rather than scale too quickly. And then we automate the processes as we learn what they are.
Now, I know I would be remiss if I didn't follow up on this question. You mentioned the word affordable. So how are you defining affordable for authors? Because authors, newbies, we struggle. We have no money.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have the 30-day free trial, and then we have, it's $99 a year for Bublish annual, or $9.99 a month for everything that is available. And then with distribution, it would be pay for performance. So we would just add on the a cut of the net sales, 15% for the distribution with discoverability. Because what I see in distribution is it makes things simpler, but it doesn't. It's just like they drop you there, and you just it's just a convenience to have someone upload to multiple, but they don't do anything on the discoverability. And they're getting paid forever on your book sales, but you still have to do everything yourself. So what if you could do distribution with discoverability, built in? So you had meetings set up that were about revisiting metadata, pricing strategies, and you built that into the way. So you, both boats would rise, the author and the distributor, by working with fewer people and selling more books for them.
And what about the services that you mentioned that you want to be doing coming up?
Yeah.
What do you think, how are those affordable for authors? Because editing can cost a lot of money, thousands of dollars for something. So what makes Bublish different in that regard?
Yeah, so we're not going to take on the structural editing in the beginning. I do not feel like I have the relationships to know who I would trust with fiction and nonfiction there. I have a lot of background in nonfiction editing and ghostwriting, but, a good solid copy edit, at about 0.012. So again, a whole a la carte, and you don't have to be a member of Bublish, but if you are, you get a 10% discount. Again, more of a value add for our, and the other thing is, so if you're writing your book on Bublish, and we hope to automate this at the end, but how we talked about that last page is really great tool for you to drive people to your website or your social channels. So we want to automate that would just become something you put fields in, and then it becomes part of your book. But again, for very small amount, any book that would come off of Bublish, we would optimize it, and then metadata, that type of thing, to do an analysis of that with you. Because I do think that's overwhelming, but make it very affordable. But as you can tell, I'm not nailing down prices because I'm still trying. I have to work with sometimes with people who are outside, but affordability is a big factor for us because I get it, I know.
That makes a lot of sense. Kathy, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So what about integration with other writing tools that are very popular right now? Like, let's say, for example, if I'm working in Scrivener, is it possible for me to take my Scrivener and just upload it right into Bublish, into that format? Is there a handy way to do that?
Yeah, not right now, but like Grammarly is another one that we've looked at. So, again, the concept that there'd be more integration of great tools that automate things like grammar checks that are much more sophisticated than what you get in a typical Word document or on an HTML thing. But Scrivener's interesting because it is downloadable, right? It's not cloud-based at all.
Right.
And we have a cloud-based tool, so sometimes it's difficult to integrate with something that goes onto your desktop than instead in the cloud. But we love integrating, and we love building APIs because we like to do what we do well and then build APIs with specialists who do other things better. It's just like another one would be an integration with Goodreads, but they just do not have a robust API right now, unfortunately. But we are always having conversations with different organizations. We'd love to add, video, would love to add audio in a sense, maybe a Q&A, and it could be something you do on your phone and then it just becomes part of your bubble. We'd love to do more integrations with social. LinkedIn's huge for our nonfiction authors. Instagram, huge challenge, but, could be done. Need to do Pinterest. So much to do.
Yeah.
Someone asked a question
but that's what we keep doing. Go ahead.
Someone, Coach Glenda said, what about Fast Pencil? I'm not familiar with Fast Pencil.
Is that like a Grammarly? If it's like a Grammarly, could be the case. I always think of Grammarly as kind of being the best. Is someone Googling it right now? Should I look on my phone? Fast Pencil, I don't know that.
Oh, you write your book in it.
Glenda, would you like to join us in the open seat? You'd be welcome to come join us and talk to Kathy. You just click right
There's
in
a lot of, there's a lot of tools out there. I mean, if Fast Pencil is a writing tool, the question I would have would be, does it have the branding and the marketing built in? That's what we're, trying to have both that are just one click away. And again, as automated as possible. I'm looking at Fast Pencil. I have heard of this site, but I'm afraid I don't know enough about it. It is loading on my phone.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now too.
Now I get to put on hobbyists, get started, authors.
Yeah,
so it sounds kind of like what you're saying, a Scrivener with that's cloud-based. Interesting. I will be giving them a call.
Thanks, Coach Glenda. Thank you. Oh, here we go.
Oh, there she is.
All right.
Coming on. Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Do you use Fast Pencil?
I have in the past, but I don't think it has. I mean, I'm pretty sure it doesn't have the marketing. It hooks into other things when you get toward the end, and you can put other things on it where they'll charge you to. I can't even remember what they are now, but they charge you extra. It doesn't cost anything to write the book in there, but it comes out as they do PDF or either ebook. So yeah, I'm interested in what you were talking about because I've written a co-authored a book, but I'm also now inspired to do my own book.
Congrats.
And so now I'm getting near the editing phase, and it feels a little frustrating, but I know that there's a way, to do what I need to do. It's just probably going to take me a little bit longer than what I thought, but.
Well, and I always think too that it's, and there's this whole push and pull, like you don't have to. The nice thing is if you do digital first launches, which we recommend, there are books that really should be available in both formats, and print on demand makes that really affordable. But if you do a digital first release, it does not have to be perfect. But remember, there's a lot of competition, so it is so worth getting it, error-free and very professional, because you don't want to lose somebody who then got there, read it. You want them to say, you got to read this. So there's and it's just like launching a company, the same thing. The software's not perfect. There's glitches, there's bugs, and you don't want to launch, and you got to go out without it being perfect. But with digital, you can fix it. You can upload a version. But you want it to be, you want to make sure that when someone reads it, they want to review it and they want to give it 5 stars and talk about it.
Yeah,
for sure.
I had not thought about digital first and then the other. So that's an idea.
It's a great strategy because if you again, on the money side, so if you're thinking, I want to hire an editor and that's expensive, and then you think about formatting your book and you have to have a cover designer do and that's expensive, more expensive than digital. So you can put your money in making sure the content's great and save bucks on the digital side and get the book up there, get feedback, even maybe go back and revise. And then we if an author is very strongly wants to be in print, or a lot of authors really have that local audience and they have places they could sell them, then 6 months later, you got something else to talk about, and you've got reviews, and you've got, and you built up a little income, and now you can go hire that cover artist and print layout. Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Did either of you do the digital first strategy, or are you Are you in print at all, or?
My books are not in print yet. They're all digital because I just assume that people, who are kind of interested in game dev are going to go looking, for sort of the technical side. Although it is interesting because it seems like kids really prefer the physical format.
Yes.
I try to get my kids to read my books, and they won't do it because they like actually holding books in their hands. A lot of little brats.
Well, I can tell you that's exactly how mine are, though. And I've got 11 and 8, and my 11-year-old still hasn't read your book because it's on the Kindle. So he hasn't, and so he really, the physical book is important to them when they're young. And to answer your question, yes, I've done both. And part of the reason I've done both is because I knew I needed the print version because I knew where I could sell those. And so I get copies of the print versions when I know I have somewhere to actually sell the print versions. Otherwise, I don't. But the other thing that I learned was when I had a pre-order for my most recent book is Hush, and I did a pre-order for it, but I couldn't get reviews on Amazon because you can't get reviews when they're in pre-order. And so that meant I had to put the print version out there. I just didn't announce it to everybody. So I put the print version out there so that people could review it, because then when they were there, they could be linked. So all the reviews that went for the print version are there for the ebook too, once you make the ebook.
Yeah, interesting.
Available. And so that was my workaround for the pre-order dilemma and not being able to get reviews.
It's very interesting. There's a lot of interesting, and the other thing, so like with nonfiction, and I'm not sure if you're writing fiction or nonfiction, but with nonfiction, a lot of times, and you make the biggest margins if you can afford to do the print run, to just take them and sell them at the conference or where you're speaking, or where, or even just to friends and family, So there are some good reasons. That won't show up. Again, you have to go back to what are your goals. That's not going to show up in your rankings, that purchase, but it's going to give you a lot of cash. So, a nice hit of cash right up front, which you can invest, into other things you want to do with your books and marketing and all of that. So I think that's really important is start with, here's where I want to be in 3 years with my writing career, but these are the most important things for me to have in the first year. And, you may say the most important thing for me is to get this book into as many hands as possible. I'm not concerned with the money. Well, KDP Select's a fabulous program for that. But you're going to be paid per page is read, and it's not, and you're going to give your book away for free for 5 days, and you're not going to make as much, but you'll get discovered. Or you may say, I really want to have some cash to invest in the next phase of my writing, so I'm going to do these things to optimize the return in cash on my first phase. So that and your target audience goals and your target audience, I think, are really key to start with foundationally.
Yeah.
And that's
Go ahead. The book I'm working on is very important because it's going to be fundamentally my theme of what I'm going to be working from is about overcoming. And so, I share my story and then the principles and the things that I'm saying, do these things. And that from hearing my story, they see these are things that I have done. And so what I eventually want to do is make it into like a workshop to where you can explore each chapter or pick the ones you want to explore. And so it's so important to me to get this first thing right.
This is your business card.
I think the ebook thing is a good idea. I hadn't thought about it from that perspective of doing that first, and then because I know that there's mistakes, I can change it, and then do the book. The book can actually be a part of coming to an event, the actual book.
Exactly, and that's where you'll do tremendous sales. I mean, I can tell you that the last event I did was a holiday market, beginning of December, and I made sure I had books for that event. And I have, at that point, I had, I think, 6 books but I only took 3 or 4 print of the books I have, and I sold out of everything at that event. And that wasn't the only thing I was selling, but that's what I sold out of, was all of my books. And then I took that money and went and bought lead pages.
Right, the landing page.
Did some other stuff with the money. So it was that sort of thing. But what you're talking about, really, it's a business card for you. And what you can do on the formatting side, because that's the thing that messed me up from the very beginning for the print version. I went to Joel Friedlander's book designer site. So if you haven't looked up Joel Friedlander, please
Templates.
He has templates that you can buy, so that and it makes the formatting so much easier. You don't have to learn how to format. You just copy and paste and put your stuff into that.
Or write it in Bublish.
I'm talking print version though.
Print. Yes.
The print version. Yeah. So this is specifically if you want to get a print book and you don't want to deal with formatting, that is the way to do it. If you don't want to learn in Word, if you're using Word, how to do all of that, which I didn't. I didn't want to spend time on that. So I bought the template. Easy. And it's not, and it's a time suck. So if you want to spend time on it, then buy, because when you talk affordable, it's like maybe $37 for me to get that template that I get to use on all of my print books, and I don't have to worry about it. Something. Don't quote me on the price. That might not be the price. I could be wrong about the price.
But they're affordable. But
it's affordable is the point. But that's a print option, is to do it that way, is to buy that template.
And the other thing that I'm thinking with your digital first strategy is, again, at the end of the book, to me, it sounds like building community around this is very, very important for you. And then getting people to sign up for the events. They call this, someone brilliant, Melissa Wilson, who works with a lot of top CEOs on books, she calls it high tech, high touch. So high tech being your digital book, and then using that back matter in your book to draw people in, to give you their email so you can tell them about the high touch events, which are real world events. And, sometimes when that's your goal, you think about giving the book away for free to get that community built, or at least having a second piece of content that's similar, or a piece of it that you can, even create the lead pages, which is something is brilliant, and I would love to integrate with them. That's something we see, again, that landing page, after the email, all of that integrated. But, it sounds to me like community is really important for your book.
Yeah, it is.
So, and getting those emails and then being able to talk to them as part of your community of people, wanting to meet in the real world.
Yeah, that's exactly the strategy that I'm using, Glenda, with my books. I've got links in the books themselves that are going to bring them to a landing page where they can get content marketing pieces from me that kind of go with the book. So you read the book, and then you can click on a link to get the resource guide or the help guide or something like that, and I can get their email, and then they can kind of that puts them into an onboarding email sequence where it's like, hi, thanks for joining me, welcome aboard. And, I keep reaching out and talking to them the whole time.
Yeah.
And Corey's she's part of my team.
Hardy is the man on this. He has got a great email onboarding sequence. It's just really good. It's really, really well done. And I've been copied a little bit to do my own.
Yeah,
he's due.
He's really good. He's the one who got me into finally committing to lead pages. He's the one who made me go back to MailChimp instead of using MailChimp. He was the whole reason behind that. So Glenda, go back and listen to some of our other episodes, because we talk a lot about the lead pages and the MailChimp and all that stuff. And they're over on YouTube under Back Porch Writer, just so you know. But you can find that information there, and you can always come back on Tuesdays and talk with us here, and we'll try and share what we've learned, what we're doing.
I appreciate
Had some good brains here with you two, Corey and Hardy. Really great. No, it's great. You're doing this.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's it's fun.
All right,
well, as long as we're
I'll be back.
Yeah, congrats.
Yeah, if you have, like I said, Linda, if you have other questions, you can always post them here, or you can certainly reach out. We're both on social media. Both of us are on Twitter. Both of us, you can always find us on Facebook.
Okay.
We're wandering about. the two of us.
You can find me at Bublish.
And
Yeah.
at Bublish. And if you haven't checked out Bublish, go check it out.
Yes, I've never heard of it till today, and I saw, what is that? And I was, that's part of what got me in here, because like, what is that?
Now you got to check it out.
Do you have a website? Do you have a website, by the way?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, great.
Oh, well, let's put it in the chat.
What's your website?
Okay, I'll put it in here.
Please do.
We're all about self-promotion here. Feel free to do that.
Oh, yeah, cool.
We did that in our very first show. We need to keep repeating that. If you want to tell people about your book, put it in the chat. You want to tell them about your website? Put it in the chat.
Absolutely.
All right, I have a question about Blab while she's doing that. I keep seeing these like hands up, 122.87. What are those? What is that?
People are giving you props.
Yeah. Those are props.
Are they listening in, or
they're listening in? So there's people lurking. There's about 12 people or something that are just kind of out there listening or watching. And then you can actually see the people that are up in the top of your screen. You can see some circles and people.
Oh, right.
So
okay.
There's actually more eyes on this than what you can see.
With me. Let's see now. Too many thousands of hours staring at computer screens. Oh, okay. So I see that. So 12 eyes, and then there's a 6. Okay, interesting. I love this platform.
You can see people doing that, and you can, as you can see, you can post to Facebook from here. You can tweet from here.
And is this recorded then?
It is recorded, and it's recording right now. I can pause the recording, and we can go off the record, and then I can come back in and record more.
So, you can edit us, yes.
There are things that can happen, you know. Well, we had to, a week or so ago, I paused a few times because we were having technical problems. I was like, I'll just pause. So I paused it and then came back. And then I watched that video and I thought,
thank you, Glenda.
Thanks, Glenda.
Nice to meet you. That's exciting.
It's a fun platform to figure out and start to learn.
Well, this is another, as long as we're talking Blab, this is another cool thing. You can do this.
He's typing.
Okay, now is that over on the right where you just?
So I can, if someone puts in a question, if you type, /Q and put a question into the chat queue, then the hosts can basically pop it up into the empty seat. And it's just a way to kind of put a topic in as you're chatting.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's really cool.
It's Blab is cool. Corey was, starting this. We kind of met in a Facebook group, and she said, "Oh, I want to do a Blab. I'm kind of interested." And I said, "Yeah, let's give it a try." And first time we ever did it, I just got hooked. I just thought this is so neat. Platform. It's a social platform. It's really fun. So
yeah, I love. I think what's fabulous is the integration with the social. I had asked Eunice, because I'm not always great at multitasking during while speaking, so I asked Eunice, who does our social media, to handle stuff. But I think she might have signed in and could tweet right from the platform. I love that. Yeah, great. Wonderful.
Yeah, so it's a fun.
Afterward, we can share this with our audience.
I was wondering who was tweeting for you, because she's been tweeting like a pro. I mean, right along with the topic. Goodness, you are on it. Nice work.
Yeah, well, you got to walk the walk. If you're talking about social marketing, you better do a lot of it yourself.
That's awesome.
That's true. Well, Kathy, I want to thank you so much for being with us. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but thank you so much for coming in and joining us.
Fun.
Yeah, it was a great time. And Hardy, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I just wanted to say, really, it's an honor and a pleasure to get a chance to talk to you, Kathy. We love your work. We love the company that you're and the services, and just such a pleasure to have you here and have all this knowledge from you. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Hardy. Great to meet you too, and Corey. Look forward to talking again with you, and we'll see you over at Bublish too. Take care.
To see us over there.
And thank you, Eunice, for the social media.
Yes, thank you.
People rock.
All right, take care. And now I just click the X, and
you just click the X.
And you're good.
Bye.
Bye, Kathy.
Have a great day.
You too. Kathy will be on Back Porch Writer in the coming weeks. I will have that posted over on backporchwriter.com, so you can listen to that chat as well. I think it's a slightly different audience over there. So I thought, have her here and have her over there too. Why not? So I can't wait to find out what else they're doing on Bublish and try out some of the new stuff that she's talking about. That's exciting.
I absolutely. I hope that she will give some thought to integrating something like Scrivener, because I'd hate to have to learn a new complete writing package after I just learned new complete writing package.
Well, I can't figure out. I don't use on the Bublish. I don't use the write my book on there feature the way that you normally would. Like I did the rough cut bubble thing so I could do some promo for Hush before releasing, but I didn't write the entire book on there. I actually kept it in Scrivener, and part of it is that I take it out of Scrivener and give it to my editor, and my editor gives it back to me, and then I work on it. And I couldn't figure out how I'd be able to effectively do that in that platform. And so I said, I won't do it that way. But doing rough cut bubbles is an awesome feature. I love doing that. And then I even keep them on my profile on my page. So the rough cut bubbles that I did from there are there, plus Hush is there with the actual completed book and bubbles from there. So it's just, I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. One of my big takeaways. Yeah. Yeah, it's either Kathy or Eunice's answer. We're not trying to talk behind your back. One thing I took away was I need to keep my bubbles fresh. I need to, keep, coming up with some new stuff just so that I have a chance to get into the rolling bookstore and kind of get into the featured list, because I have a bunch of bubbles, but I need to make some new ones. I need to keep that, that kind of rolling forward and keep it interesting for their audience. So just, to qualify, that in and of itself is a fantastic tip.
Mm-hmm. And that was one of the reasons why I know that you've automated some of that with your tweets and stuff, but I never did that. So I always would go in every week. I go in and do a bubble. At least that before Christmas, that's how I did it. So every week, go in and do a new bubble. Yeah. And sometimes I'd share my profile.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll just get into the habit of making a new bubble and then going ahead and adding those into my tweet jukebox, so that they pop up on some occasion, just so that I'm kind of checking both of those boxes at the same time.
It makes sense. I mean, the tweet, I didn't think to do it that way. So now I think, I should add that to my tweet jukebox because I have one of those too.
You do. Yes, you do.
I should put that in there.
Well, I mean, it's great content. I mean, the bubbles are so cool that it's fantastic content. So why not tweet it? Because it's neat, See,
and I always just tweet it right when I make it. And then I go back into Bublish and tweet it again periodically. But I didn't think to put it in the tweet jukebox until you said you were doing that. I should have probably done that. The templates for formatting, it's Joel Friedlander, the book designer. Thank you, Marty. He's got a great site. The other thing that's over there is something called a media kit, and you may or may not be at that point, but there's a media kit bundle there that you can get. That's also affordable. It'll give you all the templates that you need to create, like your press releases, your bios, and the different types of bios that you want to have. And the person who put together is really awesome, and her name is escaping me right now. It might be the Publicity Hound who put that all together. And I don't remember her actual name, but that would be her website. I think she's the one who put together the media kit with Joel. And I ended up Publicity Hound. Joan, I think is her first name. But that's another cool thing to check out, because in the beginning, when I was trying to figure out author platform and all the things that I needed to put together for a media kit, I was getting it piecemeal because I was going to different sites and getting different information. And then that came along and it had everything in one spot. And I went, oh, I'm only missing a few things. I'll go ahead and get this and make sure I have everything I need. So that's what I did. Yes, that is the name. Joan Stewart. That is right. That's the name. I do want to bring up a couple things before we head out. I talked about noise trade at the beginning. I'm not sure if everybody that's listening right now was here when I mentioned that. Noise trade, I just learned about it this last week. It's pretty cool. It's a way for you to share your content, a book or your music, let's say, for free to your audience. And so you can go on Noise Trade. It's noisetrade.com. I did put it in the chat early on, the link. But you can put your book there for free. If you don't want it to be free and you've already uploaded it, you can sort of hide it from people for a period of time. So for example, Hush is over there right now on Noise Trade. It's free. You can get the whole book for free right now over on Noise Trade. I wanted to try it out. Another place to look is Book Funnel, and that's bookfunnel.com. This would be a way for you to share. This is not a free one, but it's only $20 a year, for you to share your books with people, like advanced reader copies, so that you can get the reviews you want to get. Potentially, you can send your book to them this way, and they've made it so that it can go to any kind of device. Essentially, is what BookFunnel is all about. And I liked that, so I wanted to give that a try, because I know that I had hard time getting out ARCs before.
Full disclosure, I use BookFunnel. I signed up for it as soon as I possibly could, because that whole question of distributing and side loading, what they call the process of side loading, meaning how do you get free content onto somebody else's Kindle. It is shocking to me how little people seem to understand how to get content onto their own Kindle. It's a stranglehold that Amazon has, because you can just press a button on the Kindle and Amazon can put stuff on there. But if you as a civilian want to put stuff on your own Kindle, it's a hassle. And BookFunnel goes a long way towards, alleviating some of that stress. So yeah, I signed up for it, and they even added on request. I mean, they're super responsive in terms of customer service. And just based on requests from authors, they added a way to distribute PDFs. I mean, if you have content marketing stuff that you want to give out, BookFunnel added a way to put it in there. So, they're very, very responsive. They're very attentive. So anyway, definitely.
So that's a great one. Check that one out. I mentioned EasyVid at the top of the show. This is a way to do screen capture. It's freeware. So if you're trying to put together any sort of how-to video or something, this would be software that you could potentially use. So you might want to check out easyvid.com. And it's fun. I've been using it for a couple of days, just playing with it. I don't know everything. I can't explain it all to you, but check it out. It could be useful to some of you, especially if you're trying to put together presentations and things like that. Then I came across two things, and this might be interesting to you, Hardy. I was listening to the Wordslinger podcast, I think, and he was talking. You're welcome. He was talking with a woman named Debbie Drum, and she's put together something called Book Review Targeter. It's $197. It's a book review targeter, and it is similar to, from what I can ascertain, it's similar to Author Marketing Club's reviewer grabber thing that they have. But the book review target tool, I will say this, it's very slickly designed. I really like the design of this tool, and it seemed very, very practical.
Is it on getbookreviewsnow.com? Debbie Drum?
Yep.
Okay.
So it brings in the emails of the people the reviewers that you've identified. You do a search for, I don't know, thriller, and then you identify the books and you can identify the reviewers, and it only brings in the people who have email addresses, if I understand correctly. So it doesn't bring in everything. It's just the ones that have email addresses, and they don't all have email addresses, right?
Yeah.
And so that tool does that. I can't speak to the other one, Author Marketing Club. I found a video that sort of showed what it did, but I've never experienced it. Have you, Hardy? Did you look at their thing?
I haven't. Author Marketing Club is, as much as I love Brian Cohen and Jim Kukral, and I love their podcast, Sell More Book Show, Author Marketing Club to me is an incredibly frustrating site, just because there's tons of information and interesting tools, but they are very difficult to sort through and find. I personally kind of gave up on it. I even signed up as a premium member, and I was trying to sift through and figure out, okay, where should I start? How do I approach the tools? And I gave up because it was just, I don't know, it's just a big old mess. And I reached out to Jim Cooper at one point. I was like, hey, maybe you want to think about how to organize the content that's here. But I think he's just in kind of fast forward, build the list, add content to the site mode. And the content is good. I'm not saying it's not good. It is. There's a lot of great information that's there. I mean, there's a step-by-step video of how to take your manuscript in Microsoft Word, exactly what you should click on to translate it into an EPUB format so it can go directly onto the Kindle. that's a fantastic resource for, for anybody out there who has struggled, long and hard with formatting and stuff like that. What a shame it's not easy to find. What a shame it's not right at the top. Like, hey, are you trying to wrestle with formatting? Start here. It just makes me nuts. So anyway, no, that's my
long story. So yeah, the difference in price. So if you decided to become a premium member of Author Marketing Club just so that you could try out the grabber tool that they have, it's $149 to do that. And then you'd also have access to all of the other stuff. Where the book review targeter is $197, and it's that. So that's it. Just so you know. So that would be the difference. But it was slick. It was easy. It was an easy tool.
Well, yeah. I mean, so again, going back to my point, like I've never actually successfully found the review grabber tool on Author Marketing Club. So I would say something right there.
Okay, well, I'm throwing it out there so that everybody else is in the know and you have the information. And since Hardy brought up the whole Word to EPUB thing, if you haven't checked into Calibre, then you should check into Calibre. It's a way for you to take a document and translate it. I don't know the word for that, but turn it into the other thing that you want. So let's say you have a Word docx and you want it to be an EPUB. You bring it into Calibre and then you get to make it an EPUB or a Mobi file. Yeah, Coach is like, I've used Calibre. Yeah, it's awesome. It converts all kinds of stuff. It converts into things that I don't even know what they are because I only use PDF, Mobi, and EPUB.
It's a fantastic resource. Just unbelievable.
It's a great tool. And I learned about it early on, and I was like, why didn't somebody tell me this in 2011? So there you go, people. Calibre, awesome tool.
But it is, although if I understand you correctly, Bublish and others they're trying to put, that kind of tool, Calibre or Scrivener, they're trying to put them out of business by offering you online, web integrated or cloud integrated, tools that do the same kind of thing, which is cool, except for that, cool. Like we need the tools to work in a robust way today. If you're getting ready to publish, you don't have time to wait. So it's definitely, it's fascinating to kind of see this transition as the technology moves forward. Zamzar.
I don't know what Zamzar is. I'll have to look that up now.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. Can't wait to check that out. Oh,
here we go.
Is she coming back? Kathy's like, you guys kept talking without me.
Well, we don't always do that, but we had some things we had to bring in.
Oh yeah. No. I just wanted to tell you because there's the one trick I'm going to tell you guys that we have used for a lot of our authors who are trying to get EPUBs, and they don't even know where to begin. So we found a way where you can download your Mobi file from Amazon, and you can then go through Zamzar and just convert it with one click for free. And it produces a gorgeous EPUB. Because Calibre is where a lot of EPUBs come that aren't created on Bublish, but the only thing is it's very sophisticated, and a lot of times there are a lot of mistakes. So we see a lot of line breaks in the text because there are hard carriage returns in the EPUB rather than, fluid text. So there's just, if you don't know how to use it really well, sometimes you generate an EPUB that's not great. But anyway, if you have a Mobi file, or even Word, but Mobi to EPUB, it does a great on Zamzar.com, and it is a free tool. They do you can do all kinds of conversions. It's much bigger than EPUB, but I don't even remember how we found it, but I just wanted to share that.
Oh, thank you.
It's a great.
Now I have to check that one out.
Yeah. So when you want to download, if you want to ever download your Mobi, you know how you can, when you're uploading a book from KDP, and you can look and say, I want to look at it in their online tool, or I want to download it to so you download the Mobi to your desktop and then take it over to Zamzar and do the conversion.
Awesome. Totally
Yeah.
do that.
So we will have to look into Sam's
So I wasn't spying about it. I was just
No.
that was educational. And it's good
We're
when you
not
talk
trying to-
about our competition, then I'm like, gotta check out that. Or whatever. So that's what we authors and entrepreneurs need to do. So no.
You are always welcome anytime.
Anytime. We're here every Tuesday.
All right.
Every Tuesday.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Gabby.
All right, now we really should stop talking so she doesn't feel like we're trying to exclude her. So
I've got to go over to Zamzar now. What's that? Yeah,
Yeah.
Zamzar. And I'll have to check out Zamzar.
awesome.
Yeah. And the formatting thing, just so you know, if you're using Calibre and you haven't actually formatted your Word docx very well, yeah, you run into all kinds of issues when you go to try and make it an EPUB or a MOBI. So
full disclosure for sure. Calibre can get you in the hot water because it's a fully featured HTML formatting tool. I mean, it basically is kind of a fancy front end on an HTML formatting tool that you would use in a programming environment. It does all the same kinds of things and has all the same kind of capabilities. And if you're not comfortable monkeying around in HTML, you can make a big old mess of your document. So yeah, be advised that Calibre, as powerful as it is and as much as I love it, it can get you in hot water for sure.
I just go back out in my Word doc and make sure I clean that up. And then when I put it in, then I don't have an issue with my file. I know this because I just did it. It just happened. I was trying to, and it's because I was trying to create, I need to read Hush on my Kindle. And so I was trying to get it into a format that I wanted to read it on my Kindle. And I'm like, what the heck is wrong with this? What did I do? I had to fix my Word doc. It was a mess. But anyway, so we've had fun. This was great. I'm so glad Kathy could join us. We'll have to look for another person to join us. I don't know who will be next.
That's right.
Somebody will be here. Maybe not next week, but maybe the week after. We don't know.
Entrepreneur who wants to take advantage of the newest, hottest social media format, Blab, and the coolest show for indie entrepreneurs.
Indie Hour. Just saying.
I'm breaking my arm and patting myself on the back with this.
You know, like I said, self-promotion. I said it was okay.
Fantastic.
All right, we're going to go. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thanks to Kathy for joining us. This was awesome. Had a great time. Hardy, I'll see you later. I may have questions for you later about lead pages and stuff, but I'll let you know.
Absolutely. I am here as a resource. And anyone who joins us, if you reach out to me on social media, I will help in any way I can.
He's very helpful. I can attest to that.
Thanks, Corey.
Lots of questions. See you guys.